All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So today we are going to be talking about Warframe Mobile. This has launched for iPhones now, and I wanted to do a discussion about like what mobile players are maybe going to want to gravitate towards in terms of what you're using, and also talk a little bit about the controls that I prefer on mobile, as well as how the mobile version is in general. Starting with that, I think that the mobile version of Warframe is very solid. I really appreciate that, like the way that the accounts have been integrated is just like a very simple one-tap login. That's really nice once your accounts have been linked and everything, and it is a super simple process to get everything linked up, especially now that we are post the exact launch of it where things were a little overloaded. But since then, things work really well. Also, as you can see, in terms of like loading in and everything, things are pretty smooth. And in general, I've found the frame rate to be much smoother than I anticipated. I did completely turn off particle effects, which I honestly didn't really notice a huge difference on. But even loading into my incredibly high decoration count orbiter, it has had no real problems keeping up with that, with only like very slight frame rate issues depending on if there's, a million bajillion enemies on screen. I did a little bit of Steel Path, and it was like maybe a little hitchy in some weird situations where I was using like Saren and stuff. But overall, it has been very good. In terms of controls for what I have been using for mobile and what I would suggest, the touchscreen controls are serviceable. They are fine, and I think they've done their best with what they can do here. They're also, interestingly, fully customizable, so you can kind of move any UI element that you want to wherever you need it to be for what you want to do. And like the kind of two thumb looking around and doing stuff, I think works pretty well. That being said, Warframe is a PC and console game at its heart and core. And for that, I would really suggest that if you were going to play a lot of this game on your phone, probably getting a controller. In general, I would suggest this. This is what I've been using. It is worth noting, and I should say that I bought this, but I did reach out to GameVice, and they did send me the Android version for whenever we get the Android version of Warframe, so I can test that as well. This is the iPhone version of the GameVice, and this is what I've been using to play Warframe on my phone. That being said, Xbox controllers and PlayStation controllers that have Bluetooth all can connect to iPhones, and you can totally just use those. And there's a number of like little holder situations and things that you can do for that if you want to do that on your phone, and that is also definitely good. That being said, I do like and use this thing whenever I am playing Warframe on my phone, as it is a much better experience to have actual buttons and sticks and everything, even though I am someone who really does, of course, always prefer mouse and keyboard. This thing has made things infinitely better, and for Warframe in general, you can see that we have like the UI here for the phone button still on. If you use a controller on it, which is, super seamless, as you just saw, all that stuff turns away, but the moment you touch the screen, everything comes back. So this allows for some interesting control setups, meaning basically that if you have particularly the focus and transference button, once you unlock that, you can have that just be on here as opposed to anywhere on your controller, and that freeing up a button is actually really nice. You could also free up other things here, like you could just use the on-screen gear wheel if you wanted to, and there kind of is a free button in the setup that I'm using right now. But this is the point where I talk about my heretical controller setup controls and what I prefer whenever I play Warframe on controller. You do not have to use my controls, but I do think that they are very nice, and I would encourage you to try them. I get a lot of guff for the way that my keybinds are both on PC and on controller in pretty much any game. But I would just encourage you to give it a shot and see if you like it, as opposed to immediately going, "Oh God," as a preference. So we're going to go over what it is that I am using real quickly. So here's it full screen, so it's a little more digestible. Okay, so for this setup, generally in Warframe, you will use the ability menu. That's like what the defaults have you go into, where you hold a button and then your other buttons get used for the abilities. I have totally opted out of the ability menu. I wish that the ability menu function was actually just kind of a generalized sub-menu function in Warframe. Currently, unfortunately, it is not that way. I can't just have a button set to sub-menu where I can hold that and then it turns the whole controller into a bunch of other buttons, which would be really nice and convenient for Warframe. But that functionality does not exist, so in its current state, I really don't prefer the ability menu. Heresy number one, I know. For that, major changes that I have made to the setup are various, so we're going to go over all of them kind of like top left to bottom right in order here. First and foremost, aim and fire weapon on the triggers. Those are the same as usual. Left trigger aims, right trigger fires. Nothing crazy yet. Immediate departure from normal. We have crouch, slide, and roll, which are all on left bumper. So this is where I put crouch, because crouching and rolling and doing all that stuff is going to be necessary for bullet jumping, and you're going to want it on left bumper, I think, personally. And to pair with that, on the right bumper is where I put jump. This basically is a bumper jumper setup, which it means that you don't have to take your thumb off of your aiming whenever you are sliding and jumping and dodging and moving all around and doing all of the Warframe things, which I much prefer over having to press A to jump. In terms of our face buttons, I have the Y button set to gear wheel right now, /decrease. Kind of an open button right now, if I'm honest, because as you saw, you can just use the on-screen controls for gear if you want to, but that's what I've decided to put there for now. And then we have switch weapon on B, melee attack is on A, though usually the right trigger just changes into that via the in-game settings, where if you swap to your melee weapon, right trigger will just be melee. So I don't usually actually use that. And then the context action on X, which is just hacking and doing any kind of interacting. Also, we have secondary fire / heavy melee on clicking down the right stick. That is another possible option, I will say, for moving that to the Y button. Depending on what weapon you're using, you may enjoy moving heavy attack to Y instead. I could see that as a good option. And then the vast and great heresy that I have committed against the Warframe community, which is that all of my abilities are on the D-pad. I have up, right, down, and left as 1, 2, 3, 4 abilities, and I honestly really, really prefer them to be there. I think that it is a really fantastic spot for them, and I think that it is very easy to use the bumpers to jump around and move however you need to, and then do that while casting and aiming whatever you need your abilities to be. Obviously, that means that you cannot move while casting abilities if you're using just the left stick and running around, but whenever you are just moving, you can instead be jumping and bullet jumping and casting, which is what I would normally be doing while I'm casting my abilities. And I just find this to be a really good control scheme in general, and I do suggest it. Give it a try. I would suggest giving it a try. You don't have to use it, but try it out and see how you feel about it. You may like it more than you expect. I've had people that have actually gone and given it a shot, really give me the feedback that they enjoy it a lot. So at least give it a look. See if you are new to Warframe on controller or just Warframe in general. It is very nice. So with all of the controller heresy out of the way, in general, for my suggestions, otherwise in the options, in terms of like visual fidelity. On phone, honestly, the lowest settings it will allow you to go to still look great, and I really prefer more frame rate stability, so I pretty much just turned everything down as far as it would let me turn it down, with the exception of turning shadows off, because I think that's the only real huge visual difference that you can get into. And then other than that, things are like, they're just like your preference with like the accessibility menu and other things in here. Tons and tons of options. This is also where you can move your UI with like these specific touch controls and change any like the touch things that you want to from here. But in general, just some good options and just a general turning down of the baseline stuff to get like just a more consistently better frame rate is my preference on mobile. For that, we are now going to talk about different Warframes and loadouts I would suggest for mobile that I think perform a bit better, especially in situations where you're playing much more casually and for the types of activities you're probably going to want to be doing on mobile, which is things like visors and just like general farming and things of that nature. Things that, Warframes that more allow you to look up for a second at a person talking to you, or, some things like that, even though on a lot of cases, I think on phone, you'll be playing in solo, so you will actually be able to have a true pause. That is also another thing that's notable for those of you that are new to the game. In the top left here, you can set, if you are on a solo or whatever matchmaking, setting yourself to solo does give you the ability to true pause in most game modes, almost everywhere in the game. If you are set to actually just completely solo, if you pause the game, it will totally stop and you can do whatever else you need to do. Useful feature for those of you that don't know about it. And that does work on every platform. So yeah, that is a big suggestion I have there. But yeah, in terms of just the movement though, so you can see on controller that I'm not lying, that it is actually I do this. This is the way I move. Also, keep in mind, I am I am doing this through looking at a camera, looking at my phone, so it's a little harder than it would normally be for me. But I think that in general, this is like this is a very good movement system to do on mobile for me personally, at the very least. But yeah, I think that it's very solid. I would suggest giving it a shot, uh, and all that good business. But yeah, that's basically how mobile is breaking down for me. If you guys wanted me to, I could do other videos on like doing some missions on mobile or whatever and showing some things off. But from where we are right now, I'm actually going to move on over to PC and just show some builds and things that I think people will enjoy for mobile, including some new player stuff for you to get into that should ease you into Warframe if you are playing only on mobile. So let's swap over to that. Okay, so over here on PC, we have a few Warframes that I want to show off the builds for that are kind of like new to advanced player level for mobile play. Starting with, of course, Kalervo. I have a full builds video for Kalervo and how good he is just in general for all new players, no matter where you're playing, but I think that he has some additional advantages for people who are going to be playing on mobile. That is because Kalervo at a very, very base level is just incredibly survival. His second ability is a full heal for him that gives him overguard, and he has a very large health pool and very, very generous amount of armor on a build that is going to cost you sticks and twigs. These are all incredibly early game, easy to get, not rare mods that honestly any more experienced player would be more than happy to give you if you somehow don't have them. If you're new, I would say that once they change it, there is a new augment, or not new augment, new aura called Dreamer's Bond. This will eventually have a universal polarity, so you'll be able to equip this, and you will have this guaranteed in this slot instead of Energy Siphon. So you will also soon not have to get that either whenever Dante's update comes out. But in general, this build is incredibly, incredibly easy to put together. The hardest thing is actually getting Kalervo, because you do have to do Duviri for that. But that mode has no entry requirements whatsoever for the regular version of it, and is very, very easy to get into, and is a good way to try out a bunch of different Warframes for yourself as well. But yeah, the only mod you're actually going to have to seek out in this entire list is Hunter Adrenaline, and this is like the most common thing for one of the easiest events on Earth that runs basically every other week, so super easy to get. I have like 100 extra of this mod kicking around, and I never farm for it, so very easy to acquire. Or ask a more experienced player for if you, for whatever reason, don't have it. And this build takes nothing to put together, as I said. But in addition to just general survivability and just, good stuff and easy to put together, Kalervo also has an additional advantage for those of you who are on mobile and having trouble learning the movement system for Warframe, and that is Wrathful Advance. So Wrathful Advance is a teleport attack that gives you a very significant melee buff. And more importantly than that, it is also just a teleport. So if you are having trouble getting somewhere in the environment, maybe a tile set's giving you trouble, perhaps Jupiter or something like that, as that is usually the first tile set to give people an issue, if they're going to have one at all. Wrathful Advance is just a raw teleport. And with this beginner build, you can teleport 36 meters to wherever you happen to need to go, which is incredibly, incredibly useful for people who are not comfortable yet with the movement system. So I think that Wrathful Advance is an incredibly big plus for anyone who's new to the game. In addition to that, Kalervo also has incredibly good AoE clear for regular path enemies, and honestly even steel path enemies once you've upgraded his build way, way down the line with the Storm of Ukko. This is a 15-meter radius where essentially any enemy who enters this and can be damaged by it will simply die. This is incredibly good crowd control, and is just absolutely phenomenal for keeping the enemies down. And with Hunter Adrenaline, you're always going to have energy for it and recompense whenever you need it. So just overall, Kalervo is just incredibly fantastic. And if you are willing to go do Duviri or getting him, which is not too particularly difficult, he is amazing, amazing for new players, no matter where you're playing. And especially on mobile, I think he even comes with some additional advantages for newer players. On our much easier side to get, we have the kind of classic new player Warframe, which is Rhino. So Rhino can be farmed from Venus. The boss of Venus drops all of the parts of Rhino, and then the actual materials in order to put Rhino together are available also quite early as you get to, say, Phobos or so, which is about the 5th planet. And putting all those items together and getting him started. I actually have a guide over on the site at brozime.com for new players specifically on getting Rhino. He is also extremely easy to put together. He is very commonly the first Warframe that new players will build, and he is incredibly good for new players, and his playstyle is really simple. So the basic over-under and the really simple new player build looks like this. It's not as cheap as the Kalervo one, and it does want you to farm one corrupted mod, which is Fleeting Expertise, but if you don't have it, it also will still be good. Dreamer's Bond fits in here already as of right now, and is an incredibly good thing that every player will have that you can just shove into this and have it be good. And then Streamline, Stretch, Vitality, Intensify, and Flow are all mods that you are guaranteed to have, and I would suggest just inserting these mods in this order. If you have Fleeting Expertise, awesome, use it. If you have Streamline, awesome, use it. Stretch, Vitality, Intensify, Flow, whatever you have room for, especially if you are budgeting for not having an Orokin reactor yet. Just this in order is going to be great for you. You can see I've left some extra capacity left over here, and this is a baseline, no like extra insane upgrades or anything else Rhino. And what Rhino does is basically you have Iron Skin. This allows you to press your 2, and this gives you 2,340 overguard, and makes you invincible for a few seconds as well to gain some additional overguard whenever you press this ability. Obviously, that's really good. And whenever this gets destroyed, you can just press the ability again. Generally speaking, for most of your early game time, just Dreamer's Bond, which is only 0.3 energy regen per second. Because Iron Skin only costs 12.5 energy, it is rather uncommon that you will have Iron Skin break before you have well over the amount of energy you need to cast it again. And again and again and again in some cases. So this is basically just like really fantastic survivability, and also you are immune to all crowd control effects and everything, same as Kalervo is with his Overguard. So you don't have to worry about being knocked down and all that stuff. And then in addition to that, you also get access to Roar. So Roar is one of the best damage buffs in the entire game. This is a 65% damage increase, and without going too far into it, this does a ton of extra stuff that other damage increases don't do because of the way this damage increase is applied. To keep it very simple, you and your entire squad mop the floor with everything whenever this is active. Obviously, with this, we're just using Fleeting Expertise, so we have that minus 50% ability duration, but if you need 15 seconds of absolutely murdering everyone around you, it is a very good buff for that. And if you get more advanced with the Rhino build, usually the thing that you would add at this point is things that give you more duration. Good examples of that, if you are looking to do more upgrades, are adding Continuity in. And then beyond that, the other easy to get a duration mod is the mod Augur Message, which is also fits in the build with this as well, and that puts you back up to parity on just like normal durations. That's over 30 seconds of this incredibly powerful damage buff. And this build, you know, if you get to the point where this is what's installed in your Rhino, you're not going to have any problems for the entirety of the regular star chart. That much is for sure. But yeah, and then of course also you still get access to Rhino Stop, which is a big AoE time stop essentially for every enemy in your radius, and at most low levels will also kill everyone too. So yeah, really good stuff here for early game Rhino. If you're really loving Rhino, you can also shoot for the moon and kind of go for this. This is a bit more advanced in terms of doing Rhino stuff. This uses both of his augments to get really strong, and you can go check out my more recent Rhino builds videos to see exactly how a build like this would work. But for really early game, this is more so what you're shooting for. And if you can get this whole thing going just minus Fleeting Expertise, also going to be really good, as this is, of course, the rarest mod in this build. Which, if you don't know how to farm that, that is from the Corrupted Vaults, which are also another guide over on brozime.com, so go check that out. And then finally, we have the kind of big advanced thing that you can shoot for on mobile if you really want to kill everyone exceedingly fast and farm things very quickly. That, of course, being Zaku. So, I have a full video talking about Zaku and just how good Zaku is. I'm just going to show what's up with Zaku right now. This is way beyond what you are going to need for Zaku. I've recently changed just one thing around in here. I'm using Energy Nexus instead of what I was using before. But otherwise, it is the same as my most recent builds video. This build is incredibly powerful, and the basic gist of what happens here is that you use Grasp of Luck. This takes all the guns away from your enemies, and then the guns point back at the enemies and shoot and kill everyone. And then you use this, plus the giant AoE blast that is the Vast on Time. The Vast on Time makes your 2 last for infinite duration, and at all regular levels of play, non-steel path, that's all you have to worry about for Zaku. You're going to take everyone's guns, you're going to make them last an infinite amount of time, and you're going to have very high dodge for any incoming attacks, and the guns are going to shoot and kill every enemy that comes near you. Beyond that, there's some more to do with the Lost and everything, and you can go check out the full video on Zaku for exactly how everything works with them. But they are an incredibly powerful Warframe where basically you won't need your guns anymore for the vast majority of content. You will just basically be a turret that walks around, and whenever enemies enter your presence, they will exit reality. And they are rather, incredibly strong at just doing very general content very easily on mobile. If you're looking just to fire up Warframe, you don't have like a controller or anything with you, the thing that I have found that is like the best to do is if I just want to, crack a couple of relics open, I can just fire up Zaku, hit my 2, hit my 4, walk around, grab the reactant, get in, get out, like 5-minute adventure, donezo, get some prime items and move on. And they have been absolutely stellar for that. Your guns really don't matter for any like I said, regular level content when you are Zaku, because they are just so powerful. And especially on mobile, the absolute lack of a need to worry about aiming or anything like that at all really just makes it a really very smooth experience where you can really just chill out and just get some stuff done while laying on the couch or whatever. But yeah, those are the 3 builds that I think are, the 2 new player-friendly ones, and one that I think for those of us that are advanced players that do have access to Zaku, as it is very hard to put them together, especially with their full build. That's just some stuff to shoot for, and that I think is just good on mobile. But yeah, if you are playing mobile Warframe, let me know how your experience has been. I only have the one phone that I'm playing it on, so I only know what it's like on mine, which is, I think it's an iPhone 14. I think that's what we're on right now. But let me know how it's been on other iPhones and stuff that you can play Warframe on, as I'm very curious to hear about performance and things like that. But yeah, that's going to do it for the video, and I will see you guys tomorrow. All right, thanks for watching, everyone, and of course, as usual, thanks very much to the patrons for supporting the channel, especially the $10 patrons: Alex Barnum, Andrew, Angel SBM, Arbiter Daydream, Benuven, Blotomatic, Brandon Coggin, Brutus Salazar, Canolathra, Dylan Dworsky, Thrain, Afon, James Hartshorn, GC4 Science, John Lobdell, Joshua Adams, Luzanth, Bigokel, Minty Ginja, Michta, Nerve, Ramox Sedate, Ruby, Sharp247, Tamrielic Wastelander, The Coupon of Death, Homeworm, Victor Palmer, Waifu Wars Vaulted, and Zerafir. And of course, thank you very much to all of the $5 and $2 patrons as well. It is much appreciated, because I've been asked this a lot. I am doing the 2024 Warframe tier list, but I need to get last year's data from whenever DE releases that, which hopefully happens on the January dev stream. But that's what's holding that up, because that kind of factors into Warframe's getting S ranks or not. But yeah, that's what's going on. And thank you, everybody.